Now we work on a D16a6. Locally, it's an ESi. It's an OBD1 like a D15B7. We open up the engine. You can see it's been locally used, but it's pretty good. And we inspect it. We check if the conditions are good and get to do the necessary machining. So, hey, this is going to be a really good setup. We're going to port the head, of course. We're going to remain factory, but we're going to try to get the most performance that we can from this for track use. So, hey, this one is just good. First of all, here's our new page because we had to make a new one because my old account got hacked. So we're gonna move it here. We're gonna have try to get as much followers and likers here. We have the price list there, so you got to check that because it's gonna be really useful. And we post updates and even share some measurements and also the daily stuff that we do at the shop. We post it there. Doesn't always make it to the content or to make it into a content. So hey, I'll expect for you guys to be there because I try to reply to all the comments as soon as I can. So, hey, I'll see you guys there, all right? Okay, now this D16a6 is actually for street car, but the owner wants to occasionally use it on the track, so we decided to do this like a race build for track use. And I told him because we're gonna try to maintain this as stock as possible because it's hard to get even delta cams. I told him locally the D16a6 Vtec from Japan would dyno between 125 to 130 wheel horsepower stock. By stock, I mean it's stock cam, but it has headers, intake, and exhaust. So it's dyno tuned, so hey, that's not bad. And the owner realized that's a good idea and a good project. So we're gonna try to do that, try to reach 130 wheel horsepower in stock form, but ported head, of course. And we'll do other tricks to try to increase volumetric efficiency. Let's start off with what we're dealing with. So we're gonna run stock pistons. So let's go click this to D16 block and of course D16 crank, and then move to D16a6 head, and of course stock piston. So it's PM6. All right, this 137 rod, that's correct. And then we switch to intake the head gasket, but this is wrong. It's supposed to be 0.026 thick, not 0.037. So we calculate it. In stock form, it's, wait, let me see. It's, yeah, 9.5:1 static compression. But of course, we can resurface the head and the block, 10,000 each. So it's 0.010, so it's gonna be 0.020, it's gonna be there. 9.9 is actually 10:1 compression. We could actually go further and go to 30, but we can remove 0.020 on the head and just 0.010 on the block, and it's gonna be 10.2, but it's just a small difference. So we'll just stick to 10:1 static compression. So this is gonna be certainly a good challenge. We're gonna have to have good airspeed and exhaust. Yeah. Well, to pull 130 wheel horsepower, that's certainly a good challenge I like. So now, let's go disassemble this. And so here it is that it arrived. And actually, the good thing with an engine like this is if it's all greasy like that, it actually preserves the outer side of the block. Look at that. You can see here, it's actually going to get clean, right? We actually removed the head before we lifted the block to the engine stand. This way it's not too heavy. We disassembled it piece by piece, and you can see here stock PM6 pistons. Of course, it's gonna receive honing because we did check the bore is pretty decent. So now here, look at the bottom part. It probably didn't receive an oil change in less than 5 months. It probably did this like more than 5 months after, and this was an automatic, so it was just a street duty car. So when we checked the rod bearings, they were pretty decent. So changing to new dyno bearings, it'll be really, really good. And here you can see up close. It's pretty dirty, but it's all in good condition. So hey, this is a good engine for us. And of course, if you're liking this video, hit the like button as that shows the algorithm more activity. And actually, it's likes and comments that shows a lot more activity, and that would lead to the algorithm spreading the video to a wider audience. And of course, subscribe and hit the bell notification if you haven't. This way, you get updated on whenever we have a new project or on builds like this. We get every episode an update. And of course, the super thanks. Any amount is super appreciated. Pun intended. So any amount, that'll be really, really cool, guys. So going back to the engine, the setup is gonna be this simple. It's a D16a6 non-Vtec, of course, the PM3 head of the D16a6. We're gonna port it, the exhaust tweaks on the port and the header itself, the header collector mod that we did on the D16a6, and the intake option is to be disclosed because it's either gonna run a stock or it could run a skunk too. But the owner is insisting he wants to run an ITB like the CBR 954 that I have or the CBR 1000s that I have. So I'm going to try to order that. This way, this could eventually run an ITB after all the intake, because we can actually run the intake test here, the ported PO8 versus a stock PO8. It could actually work here. And the header, he already modified it. His hatchback actually runs a D13 right now on EFI, and they ran it with a full exhaust that's 2.5 inches, and they're surprised it pulls really good, so that's gonna be perfect. The header collector mod is like the one we did with the D16a6. It's like this. We're gonna change up the 2-inch collector and use an expansion to so that it goes to 2.5 inches and the flange. This way, the full exhaust is gonna be 2.5 inches. This lets it breathe up top without sacrificing the mid-range, because the header is actually really good on the low end and the mid-range. So now you try to get it all together good. Now let's go back to the engine block. This is before we remove the pistons in the oil pan. You can see it's pretty decent, right? And it's gonna get honed and of course decked on the surface. This way it's gonna be fresh and good. And let's look at it closer here without the pistons now and the crank. Wait, let's turn it. Let me show you the main bearings, the factory main bearings. Look at that. That's what you call a fresh engine. This could probably take another 50,000 miles, but of course we're gonna run brand new main bearings. This way, for track use, this is gonna be super safe and really good and reliable. So yep, that's gonna be really awesome. And also, we did make a video a few months ago on a PM3 head porting, which is the same as the D16a6. And you guys can check on that, and link will be in the description below. But of course, if ever we do a little bit of different things or tweak a little bit of different stuff on the head, on this project, we will let you know, definitely, guys. So for now, we will clean the head and then disassemble it and start porting it. We'll start documenting the video or taking a videography on it or whatever you call that, sorry. And so this way we can edit and make it one good content for you guys. And of course, on the intake manifold, we'll definitely give an update on what we're gonna use. But I know for sure eventually this is gonna go ITB, so that's gonna be fun. We're gonna do the startup on that, and also we'll cut a dedicated intake gasket for this head. This way, we're always ready to port match it to whatever manifold the owner decides to do or we decide to use. And for those of you wondering, this is the kind of header that is gonna run. We modified the collector, but this one on the ESi on the D16a6, the owner already modified it. Here's a footage of the PM3 head that I did for myself, for my car. And of course, while we do the D16a6 head for this project, we're gonna video and document it. This way, if ever we did a few changes, you guys are the first to know. So you will see the difference. And of course, the reason why we're showing all of this or everything is because if we do hit 130 horsepower, we'll know why. And of course, we'll cut a dedicated intake gasket for the PO8 intake manifold for this engine like this here, like we did in the D16a6. This way, it's gonna be perfectly matched to the own head, or it's gonna be a marriage between the head and the manifold. But of course, I want to try to convince the owner to dyno test the stock manifold, and then this my ported PO8 manifold, because my current ESi is still not running. I'm having a little bit of trouble, but of course, as soon as we make a video of it for the next episode, we will talk about all the problems that we encountered, and of course, it's gonna be full disclosure. So we want to try this because, just so that we have a back-to-back test between a stock PO8 intake manifold and the ported intake manifold, because in the end, the owner wants to run an ITB like mine here, based off a CBR 1000 RR. He's willing to have a stock PO8 intake manifold sacrifice cut off on the runner and have welded pipes like this. This way it becomes an ITB for the D series. It's gonna be really good because we're actually doing the engine installation for this build. This way we're gonna do the initial startup. So we're gonna have a startup with a PO8 intake manifold. This way it's gonna be easy, but once it's running, once we're starting to tune it, we're gonna document the startup and the running and even the tuning on idle for the IDB, how we routed all the vacuum lines, the tricks that we do to make it more drivable on the street, everything, including AC. So that's gonna be fun for you guys, right? Oh, it's gonna be fun for me. I bet it's gonna be like, it's gonna sound good once we start revving it, even on idle or even on standstill. It's gonna be really really good because ITB tend to just give that snarling sound or induction sound that's really really good and really awesome. It's a little close to running Weber 45s, DCOE, or in locally twin side. This is gonna make the D16a6 sound so awesome and have good torque on the mid range. This way, it's not gonna be so picky with gears. It's gonna be okay with this stock SI or PH12 transmission. This is gonna be a fun street and track car. So yep, this is gonna be something you guys will be waiting on because also gonna run a full exhaust with a muffler. This way, even the onboard will probably hear more of the engine than the exhaust. That is just perfect, right? We all want that. And of course, when it gets to that point, like for example, once it's running on ITB, we will definitely dyno it. And of course, that would mean we were able to test the stock PO8 intake manifold versus a ported PO8 intake manifold, and then versus an ITB like this. That is gonna be really perfect, right? It's gonna be such good video that you guys can keep sharing it, and also it's a lot of good information shared. It's gonna be fun because it's information that I've always known, because I've always wanted to run ITB. So I've done enough research about it, so I know it's gonna work, and we're gonna share all of that to you guys. So subscribing is gonna be imperative. This way, the next one you can just click it here.